It's money. My dog. What's up, big fella?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Absolutely.
I just came to highlight my father. You know, that's who you are, Juan Denmark, man. You're the original OG.
OG.
So, you know, cheers to a good conversation, man. So let's get it started. So where was your beginnings? Where were you born? You know?
I was actually born in Savannah, Georgia,
Okay.
26 May '64, and I grew up as a military brat.
Mm-hmm.
So after the second tour of Vietnam, your granddaddy came back, and we were on orders to go to Germany. So I spent a significant amount of time in a little place called Stuttgart, Germany,
Mm-hmm.
Pattonville, and.
How did being in Germany impact at that young of an age? How'd that impact your life from moving forward?
I won't say that it was in the beginning, because we went to Germany twice. So just growing up as a kid, of course I experienced different cultures and things being in Germany, but I don't think my life was really impacted until the second tour in Germany. And at that time I was in the 6th grade. We'd come from Fort Eustis and went to Germany, and then I was starting to I guess formulate or shape who I was, and so I understood things that went on in Germany.
What things did you notice when you were in Germany?
Well, the second time, I was exposed to the Bader Meinhof gang, which was we had bomb threats at school, and so we had to leave the elementary school. They threatened. I remember my mom still teases me. Well, they don't still, but they used to tease me that they sent us home from school, and the Bader Meinhof gang was an extremist organization that were threatening to blow up the school to kill the black kids because they wanted blacks. They were a neo-Nazi fascist organization, and they wanted blacks out of Germany. So that was that's what came over from the grown-ups, that they were bombing the school or threatening to bomb the school, blow the school up to kill the blacks.
Was that your first time you kind of identified with being different from the people you were around?
Yeah, probably so.
How did that make you feel?
Well, it was an era. It was that time frame, both in the beginning and the end, because it was a little bit in the beginning. When we left Germany, it had started, and then we went back, and then I had a minority studies teacher, Michael Chu. You hear me talk about Mr. Chu. He was my minority studies teacher, so he taught us history and minority studies. Mm-hmm. And so he pointed out to us, we dove into every day was a history lesson. And so it was a history lesson that would later be a part of my life. But, we learned a lot of things about, slave trade, discrimination, segregation, Jim Crow law. And so I tease people sometimes. They say, man, you sound like a black militant. I said, well, if I'm a black militant, then you have a guy named Michael Chu, an old white man. He's actually 80 years old now. I went to visit him the year before last. But you have him to blame for making me conscious and aware of my history as a black man.
So as you're growing up, from that experience, you get into kind of your own personal development. Did the times of being an outcast and kind of being targeted fuel you to gain muscle mass and get into the bodybuilding lifestyle of any sort?
I started, in my mind, no correlation between the two. I started going to the gym at a young age, started doing push-ups, going to the gym at a young age. And so I started, hitting the heavy bag, and one of my life heroes was always Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. And so I got into understanding his protests of the Vietnam War. And I took on the understanding of why he was protesting. And then also in the back of my mind, I understood, my father, and him having been drafted the first time to go to Vietnam, having volunteered the second time. And so I used to tell people, I said, my father was born in '38. The military was integrated in 48. By 68, my father had been to Vietnam twice, and a two-time Vietnam veteran, Bronze Star recipient. And so I remember my father saying at a young age that as bad as things are in America, it's still the greatest country in the world, and I still believe that to the day. But I took on this facade of, you know, Muhammad Ali, activist type thing. We were involved in little groups as kids, as dependents. And so I guess in our own mind, we identified with the struggle as far as who we were and some of the issues, the worldly issues, and it was always evident to me about, you know, that type of stuff. So,
right. It seems like your father was a very strong and influential force in your life.
Absolutely.
So I mean, let's speak to him and who he is. I mean, at what point did you start to recognize the strengths in your father, and when did he kind of come into your life and provide that leadership?
Well, my father was what would be probably considered back in the day. I don't know what they would call it now, but back in the day, he was a man's man. He was not a self-pity guy. He was a self-made man. He spent 20 years in the military. Once he retired, he started his own business. He was an upholster. You were never allowed through socialization, infiltration. I learned you were never allowed to have self-pity. You were always aware of your surroundings, but they were never an excuse, if that makes sense.
Of course.
And so I actually, the impact of who my father was, unfortunately, for me, I did not fully experience it. It didn't fully come to me until after his death in '97. And at that time, then I was forced myself to reconcile with who I was as a person in my life, if my father would be proud of me, some of the things that I heard in the house, some of the things that he said, some of the life examples that he showed me. And so
what prevented you from recognizing that impact
I think just like with most kids, it's a rebellious type thing. We you know, I don't want to be like that guy. You know, you learn a little of how, you know, good, bad, and ugly. So you learn some of the good qualities that you think he has, and then you learn some of the things you say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. And so I don't know if it really prevented me as much as I was conscious and aware of how he was as a person. I don't ever remember, and it may not be fair to my recollection or to him, but my father wasn't one to walk around and tell you he loved you every day. You know, that's one of those old people things, you know, if I didn't tell you I don't love you, then you can just assume that I do until something changes. I remember in '96 was the first time that I really realized or recognized that, you know, that emotional bond with my father. We took a trip to Florida, and it was just him and I. It was the last trip that we would take before his passing. But we took a trip. It was about 4 days, and we started from Georgia. We went all the way down to Key West, and so we stopped and we fished and we talked.
I mean, those
I
moments,
remember us, him hugging me, him telling me how proud he was of me, and so, you know,
So how did that impact you as far as being a father yourself? Because now you're growing up, you're maturing, and now you're having kids of your own. So how does the impact of your father influence your fatherhood?
I don't know. That would be a question for you, because I try to be a fair man. I also try to be conscious of what the world was, what the world could do to you, and I think as a father, both of you and your sisters, what the world could do to you, what the world was capable of, without you being on edge so much that you weren't able to function because you were concerned about what could happen, you know, over your right or left shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was probably some of that. You all would probably say I was cold and harsh, and I guess I came by it earnestly, you know.
I mean, you could ask me because I'm here, but
I mean,
I think in the beginning, you definitely were the disciplinary in the house, you know, and you kind of made that clear when we came and interacted with you. But I think at some point in life, I don't know whether it was maybe your separation from the military, maybe it was a significant moment in your life that you may have recognized, but you kind of made a shift where you stopped going from necessarily the entire disciplinary figure to more of a, there was more communication on both sides.
And I can tell you when that happened. That happened one day in Hawaii when I'd come home and I was doing a labor relations job, and I came home and your mother said to me, you know, she says, paraphrasing, she said, why are you such an asshole? And I said, what do you mean? She said, everybody is on pins and needles. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on pins and needles when you come home. And literally, I was like, what do you mean? She said, everybody's waiting for you to come home to see what type of mood you're going to be in, to see how, you know, how they need to react. And I thought about that, and I said, wow. I said, I'm not a boogeyman. I'm not a bully. I hope you know how I feel about bullies. I'm not a bully. I said, so why would my children, this is a safe place for you to be, this is your home. Why do they feel that way? He said, because you come home and you're barking. And I was like, wow, is that what I sound like? And I said, okay.
I mean,
I thought about how unfair that was to you and your sister for me to come home and to act like that. And I don't know if you noticed it, but by the time we got to Georgia, I would think that you would have saw a change in me. And it was like, I don't want my kids to remember me. And it's something I told your sister, or told her grandmother. Before your sister came to live with us when she was 7, when you were just born, when I would go to New Jersey, they would always say, wait for your daddy to get here, wait for your daddy to get here. When your daddy gets here, he's going to do. And I said, hey, stop telling her that. Because the only thing she will remember is that every time my father showed up, he came here to beat me, or he came here to scold me, or to do something. That's not how I want to be remembered. I want to come here and I want to visit with my daughter and take her out and do things and whatever. And so, you know, all of that weighed on me, and I said, I don't want that. I don't want that to be what I'm remembered for, you know, as some big bad monster who came home and scared the house and everybody was walking around afraid. I don't want that. And so I hope that by the time we got to Georgia, you all saw a difference in my attitude and how, and maybe some of it was coming down, getting ready to retire, and a little.
Because you spent a long time in the military, so how did that military?
I don't think it didn't change. It didn't change. Listen, when I was a 25-year-old drill sergeant, I played a role. I spoke different. I acted different because that role was not me. Now people would look and see like, oh my God, this guy, but that wasn't me because that wasn't naturally who I was. We laugh and talk about it, but I'm actually, and people that are listening probably won't believe it, I'm an introvert. I'd be in this house by myself. I don't want that whole. However, if I have to go into a crowd with 1,000 people and do whatever, I'm comfortable doing that also. But if I had a choice, it'd just be me. You know, as they say in Africa, it'd just be I and I alone. Because I'm not, you know, I don't need all of that. So I don't think the military had much to do with that. But again, I'm cognizant of the fact that my father was a soldier. And so, you know, what he taught me, that whole thing had something to do with it. And so, maybe so.
So now that you're kind of more in a reflective mode and you've experienced those experiences and you've made those shifts, how do you view yourself going forward? How do you want to be remembered amongst the people that love and care about you?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would want folks to that, and that's my only concern, and it's not a concern because people who know me, I think they know who I am, they know how my heart is, and they understand who I am as a person. People who don't know me, to be honest, I don't give a fuck. You don't know me,
Right.
so it doesn't make one bit of difference to me. But for my friends, people that I call friends, and for my family, and for you all, you know, when I'm dead and gone, I hope it's, you know, my father wasn't perfect, but he was a guy who tried hard to be a good man, who tried to do the right thing, was compassionate and to all things, all ideals. I don't necessarily have to agree with all of them, but I understand. I have the empathy to understand. I don't want to be known as some tough guy, because I think that's some mythical forest that people, actually people that are weak, use that term to make themselves feel better on the inside. But almost like a Mike Tyson, I can look right in your eyes and see you ain't no fucking tough guy. And so, so I just want to be remembered as just a guy who tried to do the right thing by his family and by humanity and people, and, you know, willing to listen to anybody's side of the story, whether I agree or disagree. I have enough sense and enough education and enough curiousness, because I am curious about a lot of things, to just sit down and listen and talk to people. And if somehow I'm able to help somebody in any capacity, then I'm willing to do that.
You know, it's not easy to be in a leadership position, and I think we both understand that well. And I think within the family that you are in, you've taken a leadership role. I know personally from the things that I've seen outside of your immediate dynamic, I've seen you take charge of cousins who needed father mentorship. I've seen you make trips to provide some sort of relief to family members who are in need. So why is it that you seem to be that person who's took that role in the family? Like what is about that that you attracted?
I think that it's something I learned from your grandfather. At the end of the day, family and friends, that's all we got. I've always been a big component. I told you, you know, when I used to tell you as a kid, you ain't got no damn friends. You know, the concept and the ideal behind that was, don't bullshit people. Don't call somebody your friend and you're not willing to do friend things. Don't say that, oh, I would do, if you're not really willing to do it. And so if I see that there's an opportunity for me to help somebody, and I know what you're talking about, for me to help people, for me to go that extra mile, for me to, you know, eat tuna fish sandwiches while I send, you know, $300-400 a month to somebody to try to help keep them from being incarcerated or help them do, then that's I don't look at it as a role. I just look at it as
An obligation of sorts?
It's an obligation based off of my raising, based off the way I was brought up. It's an obligation to be true to who I am as a person. And so those things where somebody else may look at them and think they come hard, those things come easy to me. It's easy to me to get on the road and ride to Georgia and go sit in a courtroom for 2 hours just to get an opportunity to speak to a judge, if it'll help get somebody into a treatment program or bring light on their case. Those things that's just a part of it's a part of who I am.
Okay. So I mean, speaking on obligations and things that are part of who we are, you spent a significant amount of time in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience, being in the motherland, being around people that's our ancestry? How was that experience for you?
It was deep. It was deep. I think when the plane actually landed and I got off and I smelt the air of Liberia, it brought tears to my eyes, and that wouldn't be the first time. I remember some of my buddies that I was in the military with, we also worked together. And I remember we used to do this thing. We used to, on every Friday, we drink gin. And we'd sit on the balcony and we'd drink gin and we'd talk about work and all this stuff. And so one day I was sitting out there and I was watching people go back and forth. We lived in the second time I was there, we lived in a compound that overlooked the city of Monrovia. And we could see, you know, the hustle and bustle on the street. And I looked at one of my buddies and I said, wow, man. I said, the generation that can fix all of this hasn't even been born yet. And it's incredible because you watch TV, you listen to things. If you don't know any better, you would think, oh, poor Africa, poor Africa. Africa's not poor. Well, first of all, Africa's a continent, 54 countries in Africa. The continent is not poor, it's just mismanaged. And to think that a continent that is so rich of diamonds and oil and you name it could be so mismanaged by the world, because Africa, the continent, is not truly in control. Each country, they're not truly in control of their own resources. They pawn them out. They're bought off, and you know, the
third party.
Yeah,
third party.
incredible. And you're like, how in the hell does this happen? And it makes me think about something like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, where you know the government is managing their money and people have money, and he said, why the hell can't that happen in Africa? And I think it goes way back to even before slavery, the mentality, the mindset, and the sad part about that is that when you can convince an entire continent, for the most part, is poor, while they're sitting, literally sitting on a mountain of diamonds and gold. Think about how powerful that is. That's sad. And while I was training the soldiers, I used to tell them, I said, listen, this army has got to be successful because no European, American businessman will put any money into this country until they are guaranteed that you Negroes won't start a war. You guys fight over dumb shit. What are you doing? And I'm still in contact with the soldiers today. And so the profound moment for me was just watching people in the country, the bush, what they call it, the bush, just simple living. And I had a kid explain to me one day, you know, I saw these kids going to school, and I said, oh, they're going to school. And they're like, no, Mr. D, let me show you what you see. So I saw 3 kids going to school. And they explained to me, see the first one there? The first one has a uniform, no shoes, no books. There's no learning. I said, huh? The second one, uniform, shoes, but no books. Huh? The third one, uniform, shoes, and books. That's the only one that's getting any real education. The rest of them, they call something in Liberia, they're just keeping their mind busy. They're keeping their mouth busy. They're just doing something. And that's their way of saying, you're just doing something. You're just doing something. Mm-hmm. It's like, how in the hell is that happening? How?
Did you compare the mentality of the Africans to the black people that were back in America? Did you kind of make that full range?
No. I used to tease them and say, y'all are some of the stuff they used to do. I said, y'all are the original niggas. No, I didn't compare it because I honestly, I don't think it's a fair or true comparison. Because of the situation, they don't understand racism over there. Mm-hmm. They don't understand it. They know what they see on TV, but they don't understand the depth of racism. In their mind, most of them believe that in America, I had one of the students tell me that in America, all of you have maids and drivers and chauffeurs. Mm-hmm. What? They don't understand the concept of paying mortgage, and they don't understand that concept. So to make that comparison, it's not a one-on-one, one for one. In my mind, I would never do it. I would never make that comparison because it wasn't fair. It's not fair.
Okay. So given all the things that you've experienced in life, all the things that you've seen, do you find it do you find it hard to communicate with people that you come across just in an everyday sense of conversation, just based on what you know and what they don't?
Well, as I get older, I find myself distancing myself from ignorant people, just because, quite frankly, I don't have the tolerance to deal with them. You know, I watch a lot of news and a lot of this and a lot of that, and I get different perspectives from different news sources and these things. And one thing that because I have a strong background in training and teaching, I always find myself trying to make someone get it, or what I used to explain, trying to make someone understand the why. Mm-hmm. I understand what you did, but let's delve into why you did it. Mm-hmm. Because once you're able to answer the why, then we're good. But I can't have conversations with people who won't acknowledge that a why exists, if that makes sense. There's a why. There is a why. And if you don't have enough about yourself to even understand that a why exists, I can't have a conversation with you now.
Okay.
I can't have a serious conversation with you. I can bullshit conversation with anybody, but I find myself at 57 I don't want to have too many bullshit conversations.
And so that kind of brings me to my next question, is like, is it harder for you to find relationships intimately that are sustainable based on that type of mentality?
Fair or unfair? Yes, it is.
Why is that?
I think a lot of it is because I have a low tolerance for bullshit. And to be quite fair, that's my own bullshit. I'm an old-fashioned traditionalist type of person, and I don't like arguing. I don't like that back and forth, and so you know, I've been told that, you know, I'm probably good for 2 or 3 days, and then that's about it, because, you know, I'm off in my ways, and there's some truth to that. So I used to believe something. I don't know if you remember your Aunt May, but we used to go to her house, and in the beginning I didn't understand it, but Uncle Pete slept in the back room and she slept in the front room. And as a kid I used to be like, "What the fuck is this? What the motherfucker's married? What is this about?" But now I get it.
It makes sense. They found the system that works for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And I would tell people, you know, if you had the space, and you had a significant other, a wife or husband, have 2 separate rooms. So the days that you wanted to be together, you're together. Because eventually people get sick of people. Mm-hmm. And all that, "Oh, I love you, I would never get sick." Stop. Bullshit. Eventually it happens. But I'm that guy who says, "Hey, today's that day. Don't feel like being bothered. I'm just gonna sit out here and watch some rude and obnoxious bullshit on TV. And if I yell at the TV, hey, I ain't fucking with you, leave me alone." That type of thing. And so, you know, I don't know if I find it hard, but I can honestly say it's probably difficult. It's probably difficult.
As you age and you start to understand life and maybe gain a little bit more patience with more bullshit, do you see yourself conforming to a relationship, or do you still feel like it may be something that's rubber against the road?
Yeah, I'm not a conformist. You know, I am in some things. Of course, I'm a conformist at work, because I understand that this is what pays my bills, and so. But when I'm put in a situation where it's not that, then for what is my why?
You value time.
I do. Time is important to me, because sometimes I just say, don't waste my fucking time. I don't know how much time I have. I may go to sleep tonight, and this could be it, and that's it. And so I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm not going to waste your time on dumb shit or bullshit. And I'm not going to check the block. You know, you have jobs where you have to check the block. When you're in the military, you have to check the block. I'm not checking the block in my personal life. I'm not going to tell you something that I don't mean. I'm not gonna say, oh, send me an invitation to your party, I'll be there, knowing that I have no idea. No, I just tell you, nah, man, I'm not gonna make it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, why not? Because I don't fucking feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you'll get a vibe from me, and you'll